Hello, my name is Evie and welcome back to Overwatch Everyday. This is a series where I play 1 to 5 ranked games each day and I explain my thought process that gets me up to champion on all roles consistently throughout the videos. In this video, I play a bunch of heroes in a way that require little to no support to find value on. Playing primarily Soldier, some Mei, and even finding ways to carry on Bastion while requiring basically little to no healing. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Alright, and we end up getting our game. That was a little bit of a longer queue. I am recording at night though, so probably to be expected. We see Samoa, Nepal, and Hollywood. Maybe looking like a Hollywood pick. I don't think we've actually played Hollywood yet, at least on DPS. I think this map can be really fun and interesting to play a wide variety of DPS on. I think the Tracer especially is super strong on Hollywood, with those oppressive high grounds being so strong, as well as like very far away from the cart. Being able to consistently pressure the cart as Tracer, especially on like second point, is going to be very valuable, because if you're ever able to get like the enemy team off of the high ground, especially when you're on attack, it can be like an amazing way to open up space for your team, because you can pressure the card as Tracer, and if they end up dropping to contest you at any point, you can just back up, go onto the high ground, and since you just have a little bit more mobility than most other heroes, it's gonna be making a lot of space that you can capitalize on that they can't exactly respond to. So here we see a Mauga early. I'm noting that something's eating up my GPU. It might be my low PNG tuber guy. So I think I am going to just make sure that I wanted to try the little PNG tuber. Let me know down in the comments if you guys think that it would be a nice little addition, something to like sort of show that I'm talking. If not, and you want me to be like a disembodied voice, that is perfectly okay too. Just want y'all's opinion. I thought it could be like a little fun idea. So I'm just going to close that to make sure that the video will be okay quality. Here we see a Mauga, Kiriko, Ana. There's a lot of things that we can do here. I think that I'm going to be playing Soldier. I think a lot of hit scans can be very strong here. I think something like a Casti, an Ashe, or like Emre, Freya can all be really strong here. I've just seen a few comments asking for Soldier, so I'll be covering them. Soldier is a little bit unique for the hit scan role in the fact that they have a lot of sort of survivability and mobility. We see this Tracer recall get forced out, so we're going to be taking this left side space, making it like taking a further angle away from like their Doomfist and where their team was pushing. And because we have our health pack, we're able to sustain ourselves a lot, so we're not too scared of that Tracer walking onto us, because it's going to be a hard 1v1 for them to actually win. With our Mauga going towards the mega area, it's going to be a little bit harder for us to turn this fight around. Tracer is just trying to stay on our angle as much as possible because they kite around the corner. We're just going to use our Helix rocket. Even though we can't see them, we can still sort of guarantee the kill that way. We force out their Doomfist block, and if we're able to get this kill, this might be turnable. Because we get the kill onto the Doomfist, we're going to step up a little bit, and we're in a pretty tough position right now, so I'm just doing my best to live. Hopefully my Mauga is able to get a touch, but unfortunately that will not be the case, so I'm just going to kite back up to the high ground. I want to be taking some pretty aggressive like space and angles, because I am able to sustain myself so much better than a lot of other hit scans. Just making sure I'm using my mobility and my health back to have those plays available is going to be really strong. Here on the second point though, there's not too many places that we're able to take super aggressive angles, so I'm just going to be trying to lock down this high ground, hold down this high ground, because if their Emre gets up here later, it could be a really bad thing for us. I did not mean to drop there. I just kind of slipped off the high ground, but it will be okay. We still have really good LOS of the cart. I want to make this push as hard as possible. If I'm just like spamming out their team, it will be very okay. And as soon as we're pressured, we want to just be chilling. Our Ana hits a really good nade, but we don't have the HP to fully fight in here yet. So I'm just going to be backing up. Once our Doomfist gets onto us, we're just going to be taking a wider angle. I get hit stopped by the cactus though. And now that I'm on this wider angle, as soon as they want to back up out of this room, they're going to be immediately like inside of our LOS. So it's going to be a very high pressure scenario. They have to commit to being inside that room, brawling it out into a Malga, which they generally don't want to do. Their Tracer wants to pulse bomb us, so we're going to be just backing up to this high ground here. And I'm going to be popping my visor, trying to take down this Valkyrie, since the longer that is up, the harder it's going to be for us to win this fight. Doomfist falls very, very low HP, but unfortunately we're not able to take him out. I think maybe if I got my stim pack online, it would be a little bit better. I think because the map is so narrow, I'm going to be taking stim pack instead of agility training. Just because we're going to be wanting to like lock down high grounds a little bit more. Increasing our attack speed is going to help us find frags later. So we hear their Emre use their ult, so I'm going to be swinging this corner and just trying to take him down the best that I can. Popping our stim pack and just beaming everyone that we can from this high ground. I especially want to make sure, since I don't really want to give up this position, this is going to be really, really strong later in the fight. I'm just going to be pelting anyone who I can from this high ground. As soon as Doomfist walks on us, we're going to be trying to chill, but unfortunately their Tracer's going to body block us, so we're not able to get to the mini. I think maybe I could have kited towards the other high grounds like Mega, but because their Doomfist left our Malga unmarked for a little bit to try to chase us down, we're able to find some kills. Ideally, I don't like to leave really important moments like that in other people's hands. Trying to do whatever you can or find the value that you can is going to be a really consistent way to win your ranked games and raise your win rates. So I want to be just trying to hold down these high grounds as much as possible to either force them away from where our Malga would want to be, as well as pelt them if they try to ignore us. We hear the Tracer behind. I believe she has Pulse Bomb, so we're just going to be pretty careful of that. And we're able to find the kills onto the Emre and the Kiriko. There's some ghost on the platform. I'm kind of waiting for them to come up. It is the enemy team Juno. I don't want to use a stim pack there, but maybe I could have. So just... Woo! I wasn't expecting their Doomfist to back onto me. I heard the ult get popped, but I wasn't actually like ready to respond to it in any way. Our Kiriko finds an amazing kill onto their Emre. We should be thinking about their ultimates. I believe that they're going to be having their Emre ult up pretty soon here. Maybe even their rush. I still haven't seen Pulse Bomb, but maybe they use it just on like the other side of the map. It is kind of quiet, so it's hard to hear from across the map sometimes. So we are going to be able to get a good fight on this right side area and take down the people who we need to take down, making sure that we're prioritizing like pressuring out their squishies when we get the chance to, because if we start shooting their Doomfist and they just kind of like block it, then our value is not that great for a little bit. So I just want to be trying to make it as difficult as possible for them to win that fight by, even if I don't kill their supports, if I just like shoot them, force them to back up, then it'll be really, really difficult for them to win the fight. I wanted to see if the Sojourn was still holding that space, but now that I have an angle on the cart, I'm actually just going to chill. There's a little bit, you can hop on that little secret high ground there, or the little secret ledge there. I don't think too many people know about it, but it's very, very useful and opens up a lot of options to play inside that little mini room. As soon as like the like you end up in that mini room and you don't have like a clear way out, it can be really, really tough. So knowing that little platform is there is going to be like really helpful in a lot of situations for a lot of heroes. These you can kite immediately to like the like little ledge high ground. Overall, I think that was a pretty good map. I'm not able to talk too much about positioning here on Soldier like I would like to, because they just kind of were giving up the high ground, and we were able to take it and either force them to deal with us, or if they wanted to ignore us, then we would have our value of just shooting out their backliners. But on attack here, I'm going to play the Soldier again. Soldier can be acting a little bit positioning wise, kind of like a pseudo tracer, or like a longer range tracer. You're not going to be going for a lot of like big engages like a tracer would, but you do want to be taking kind of similar flanks since you have a lot of that self-sustain potential. If you're able to keep yourself up and you're able to like find angles onto their backline and value by shooting out the valuable targets, then you definitely want to be taking that space. And even if they try to step at you, you can just pop your E, you can use your heal pad and just run away from them, and you'll create a lot of value. There will be times that soldiers like super duper carry games even if they don't have the best stats, because they'll be taking positions and the enemy team doesn't ignore them and constantly tries to force the soldiers out. But if you're able to use your mobility to live when you're taking those sort of angles, then you can be super carrying, because you're opening up the rest of your team to like really carry the game. I was a little bit scared to walk into this room because I knew that they had May wall, and if I got May walled there, it would have been like end of the line. So I just wanted to chill, but as soon as I heard their May wall out, I was free to take this angle. And now we're just able to play Kovacs, free shoot onto the people running around on the point. We're already shooting the Doomfist block, so I just want to try to pump in as much damage as I can, hopefully finding the frag. I'm pushing up a little bit because I want to support my Mauga. They're completely alone here, so I want to be trying to help them out however I can. I'm going to be taking this high ground knowing that somebody's going to be behind me soon, so I'm using this time quickly to just shoot whoever's on the point. Their Emre starts getting active, and their Widow's a really big deal. That's going to be like their miracle potential. So I'm popping my visor after we kill the Widowmaker to just make sure that we really clean up this fight. Visor isn't the strongest ult in the game. It's actually one of the weaker ones. I think that this the tactical Salvado perk actually makes it pretty good though. But it can be, honestly, I don't remember it that often since I just like shooting my gun. What Tactical Visor does is it allows you to just be really consistent with your damage value. So in opportunities or moments where you need to be getting really consistent damage value, or you can't allow yourself to miss, it can be super strong. Since we see this Doomfist kind of drop onto our backline, we're actually going to drop kind of like a Tracer would. And I'm going to chase this guy down just a little bit. Not fully committing since we know that our cast is able to do a lot of damage. Hey yo. Because our cast is able to shoot down their Doomfist, we weren't in too much of a rush to actually like chase them down, blow them up. So we were able to just drop down, make sure that we're safe, and we're going to be alive later into the fight. But if we tried to stay up on that high ground, very good chance that we would get kind of punched off or punched into the wall and just immediately blown up. And that will be our first game for the day. Won in a pretty dominant fashion. We ended 37-3, just kind of playing on the high grounds uncontested. We were able to just free shoot in a lot of instances. My tracking's feeling pretty good today. I'm recording this the night of the 10th, so I just got out of a tournament match and I did a lot of like prep beforehand, and we are able to make masters off of that. Going up 90%. This is our first game after our placements have finished, so we're going to be going up quite a bit of SR each game for a while, and I think that that's going to be a really great thing. So far we have not lost a game on DPS, I would like to keep that streak going. We've been playing a wide variety of heroes. Hit scans, flex DPS. Soldier, I do want to revisit at some point because I think that they have a lot of nuance and depth and they can be one of the strongest ranked heroes if they're played well. But on that Hollywood game, they kind of just let us have the high ground for free, so we were just able to pump in the damage that we were allowed to have. So looking into the cast here, I'm wondering if there's any hero in particular that I would want to cover. Maybe Mei. Mei is actually like a really interesting and strong hero. She can be played in a lot of different comps and can be very useful in ranked, especially. In my eyes, Mei is very much kind of like a hyper generalist. She can brawl really well, she can poke really well, and she's able to sort of deny map space on her own. Since she has like the wall and the cryo freeze, she's able to keep herself or at least stall on like a sort of solo position for a while. Most of the times that I hit my peaks on DPS, it's playing like Mei, Tracer, Widowmaker, and Symmetra. So I adore, especially I adore these kind of like generalist heroes. Widowmaker's not so much of a generalist hero, but Symmetra, Mei, and Tracer are very much so. You're going to be able to play those on a lot of maps and a lot of comps. Symmetra, while a lot of the time I think people can kind of confuse them and see her teleporter and see how the pros play Symmetra and go, oh, this is a team hero. We got to be playing as a team. We got to be playing around teleporters. It's not always the case, especially in ranked. Symmetra has a ton of individual value to be gotten. She's able to sustain herself really well if she doesn't get booped away from her TPs. Her turrets do a ton of scouting, so you don't even have to rely on any like sort of information calls if you're a player who doesn't like to join voice chats like me. Symmetra is just a great hero to like pick up and just kind of slap into any game. Here, looking like Runa, Lijiang, and Rialto are the choices, but Lijiang is going to win by an overwhelming vote majority. And here, I'm wondering what my team wants to play. Lijiang is one of the maps that I think is like pretty good for a lot of different comps. I think that maybe some pokier heroes like Widowmaker are a little bit hard here, but it is definitely not the end of the world to try to play them here sometimes. Depends on the comp that you actually have. So we're seeing Deta bans. I love to see Deta bans if I'm not planning on playing them. Just makes a lot of heroes like way easier to get value on. Vendetta's a very strong hero and very difficult to outplay. So I'm gonna see what my team wants to play here. Maybe I could talk about Bastion a little bit. Maybe it's just a tracking day. I didn't talk about like actually like how I was aiming on Soldier at all last game, or sort of what I was doing to try to hit my shots consistently. With tracking heroes especially, it's going to be like really nice to think about your movement while you're aiming. If you're able to get yourself into positions to stand still and just try to like follow your mouse in a straight line with people, or if you are able to match your movement to whoever you're shooting, it's going to make things like much easier. But I'll probably make a video about movement in depth at some point. We see a Genji. I'm honestly going to try out Bastion here. We don't have that much healing, so I'm not going to be able to be sustained as much as I'd like, but I think maybe it'd be kind of funny or silly to see if we'd be able to get any value off of like the cat, since cat Bastion is a very strong combination. If the Bastion's sort of like flying way faster than they should be able to, you can chase down like a lot of targets. We don't even do that much there, but our team finds some amazing opening picks. So we see their Mauga committing with their shift, so I'm just going to be popping my form in response to that. With Bastion especially, your big power spike is going to be your transformation and your form. So making sure that you're using it in an opportunity to either deny the enemy team from gaining some kind of advantage, or making an advantage of your own is going to be really, really important. So, and it's definitely okay if you're kind of like winning or if you're in like a neutral state to just kind of like hold on to it. The biggest mistake that I see a lot of Bastions make is going to be just like popping their form a little bit too early. We don't have our armor and our team is fighting on this right side, so I'm just going to be like throwing my nades in there as much as I can, poking out. I really don't want to be close at all because we have a very little heal comp with the Cat Lucio. Our Hazard's going to be demanding quite a bit of healing. Our Genji is as well, so I'm going to just kind of sit at the back of the map, kind of like M. Bison, like the final boss in like a fighting game. So that once they get through everybody else, then they got to deal with me. So now their Zarya looks to commit onto this choke area, and they are going to walk into our space. We pop both of their bubbles and get them very low, but since we don't have that much healing to actually sustain us, we are going to go down, but we did our job. We were able to poke down the people that we needed to, as much as we needed to, and just making sure that they're forced to use all of their resources to actually deal with us is going to be like the way that we can carry this game, since even if they get through like our front lines and they want to be, and now that the Zarya is fully committed, I'm popping my form. Like once they get past like our frontliners and they want to actually be looking to fight, that's when we're just going to be like ready and there to blow all of them up. We're up quite a bit, so I'm going to be just popping my ult, getting a little bit of scouting, seeing a little bit more what's going on in the spawn room. I could walk up there sort of for team morale, but I just like to sit back and make sure that even if like one person gets through, if their tracer got through, they wouldn't have like a free cap or a free point flip, which could go very, very bad very quickly. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm staying patient, staying calm, and denying any sort of possible way that they could win. My team pushing up into their spawn was very fine. And if you're on a less like lower mobility comp, then it's very good to make sure that your team's hit in their spawn gets value. But since we were already up several members, I was just going to sit back, because I knew that we would have a pretty big advantage even if multiple of them got to point. I'd just be able to stall it, make sure we don't give up the point flip, and probably take someone out too. So here, I'm going to be doing the same thing of I'm just going to be playing pretty far back. I'm going to be poking out all the resources that I can while my team sort of fights them, and as soon as they commit a little bit too much is when I'm going to pop my form and try to mow them down. So here, I saw them committed onto this really long lane. The form was a little bit greedy, but since I hit a good nade, I wanted to see if I'd be able to step onto it. So I'm going to be the one that backs up to point here and just trying to poke out whoever I can. But there's Zarya walking up. If I see them walk a little bit further, I'm going to be popping my form. Since we're already up one, I'm using my form to get that second nade in, trying to give my team any potential to actually burst some down. My hazard's going kind of low. We need to be ready back here. We see the things, our front line fight not going too well. But now we are... Oh, why'd my cat drop me? We're gonna pop our form and we got pulled back a little bit. And we weren't able to completely close out this fight. I think that if I was holding my form a little bit earlier instead of trying to get that nade value, we'd be in a much better spot, and I probably would have been able to stop my hazard from dying. But here, we're just going to go back to doing what we were doing. I'm taking this angle, trying to shoot down who I can. And now that there's Zarya's out in open space, kind of committed, I'm popping my form and trying to take down as many as I can. I don't really want to walk up, so I'm going to be popping my Bastion ult and trying to find any frags to help my team safely. And now, again, sitting back on the point, going to pop my form whenever they try to commit or overly commit. Since my team is kind of low on healing, I'm going to take the self-healing perk, and now my job is going to be much easier, and I can even play a little bit more aggressively. They use a lot of resources, and my hazard hits a good wall, so form here is just going to be able to clean up everyone that we would want it to. poking down the brig and anyone else who we can poke out. So here, as we're postured up a little bit more towards their spawn room, I want to be helping my team and poking out here, but I really want to make sure that I'm not committing too much unless I'm matching what they're doing. So they find a grab onto us, which is a little bit scary, but our Lucio is amazing and is able to get a really good beat to keep us up. Since I wasn't able to back out and I knew that and they committed like a big ultimate, they needed to get value out of that ultimate to like win the fight. So popping my form there and trying to deny any value by just mowing down whoever walks up to follow up on the grab is going to be like the best way to use my form there. Tracer ends up being behind us. Our Lucio goes to Mark, and I'm a little bit worried about that. I don't have the extra overhealth perk, so if I get pulse bombed here, it would be pretty bad for us. So I'm just going to help my Lucio mark out this Tracer as much as possible. I want to see if I can ideally deny their touch. And our Lucio is able to distract them. We're able to scare them from getting their blinks onto the point. We're able to close out that game yet again. Ended 20-2. Somehow finding the most damage in the lobby. Even though we were kind of chilling at the back of the map, we didn't need that much healing. And we were able to just kind of deny the enemy team from doing what they wanted to do by holding our forms until the right moments. We're able to win that game in a super dominant fashion. And we go up to Masters 4. Very nice. We love to see it. I think that Bastion can be a super strong hero to climb in ranked with. We didn't have to deal with it too much, but sometimes flankers can be a very big deal for Bastion, because if a flanker gets a good hit onto you, or if is able to get a good angle onto you, you can get your form forced out early. So it's really important to be mindful of your positioning and just making it as difficult for your form to get forced out early. Because if the enemy team is in like a non-committal position and you pop your form, then there goes basically your whole team's like huge power spike. So making sure you're using it for the right moments is going to be the main thing to keep in mind when you're playing Bastion or anyone with like a huge power spike. Something like a Mauga's shout or like his E is going to be a power or a similar power spike. Where if a Mauga pops E and they're shooting at the other tank, it's going to be really hard to kill that Mauga, right? Their brawl potential is going to skyrocket during the uptime of the Mauga shout. Wasn't even officially called the cardiac overdrive. If you have cardiac overdrive up, that's going to be like your power spike for Mauga. Is there a support one? I mean, Moira just kind of has a power spike right at the beginning, having one of the most healing per second in the game. Initially, but she's going to be really struggling in longer sustained fights. So identifying what sort of like what value your hero can provide, and if they have like massive value spikes, just really actively thinking about it and how to get the most or how to use them most effectively to win the game is going to be like one of the really big things for climbing on any role. Bastion just has the most obvious power spike in the game. So it's really good to demonstrate there, but you can apply the concept similarly to any big or long cooldown. Dominus Shield, Queen Shout, Winston Bubble, less so Baptiste Slam since you're going to be using that like kind of supportively. But any huge power spike in the game you need to be thinking about fairly regularly. Okay. I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the video, but I want to talk a little bit about tracking on Soldier, and this also applies to other tracking heroes like Tracer. But as I mentioned previously, sometimes if you're going to be a pretty high HP, and you know that if you hit your shots, you're going to be like winning the duel against somebody, trying to sort of like match their strafe pattern, so you have to move your mouse as little as possible, or even is going to be like a really good way to get super consistent with your aim. Even if you have a little bit of a hard time like actually adjusting like your mouse hand, if you're able to match their movement a little bit, it's going to be really nice to actually get very consistent damage. So here you can see if this Hanzo's strafing left, I'm going to be strafing left. Well, my left. They're right, my left. And with their Kiriko, I don't have to move my mouse like whatsoever. And making it as easy as possible and taking away the least or the most amount of like raw aim required to hit shots will just naturally build consistency. Raw aim is going to have like very good days and very bad days. If any of you start aim training, you're going to find this out pretty quickly. You're not always going to be the GOAT, but you can raise your raw aim. Like all aim training does is like actually help build your like raw aim skill, but there are tricks in game to actually build consistency in other ways. I especially like another like little tip for tracking heroes or anytime you need to like hit shots in general. A lot of times I like to start duels by aiming at their head to get the biggest burst that I can. But if I'm missing or I need to really hit important shots, then looking at a hero's feet can actually be a really big help, because with how Overwatch hitboxes are, they're generally going to be the biggest part of a hero's hitbox. As Lucio is a really good example of this, because he's strafed in these like huge lines that make it and like spread their legs to a point that like will just increase their hitbox naturally. If you ever need to hit really consistent shots, and looking downwards at somebody's legs to try to hit the shots instead of their torso or their head can be a really good habit to get into, and make sure that you're being as consistent as possible with your damage values. I think that tracking on Soldier and back, so it's just I'm actually so relaxed right now. This is awesome. I think that how movement actually relates to aiming is actually one of my favorite topics, I think, in FPS games. So I am probably going to make like a little bit of like a video essay type beat on that eventually, since I adore the topic. But for the general tips, if you know that you are going to be winning like a raw HP trade, if both of you hit your shots like the best that you can, then you can be trying to match your movement or just kind of stand still, whichever is most comfortable for you in the moment, usually, to make sure that you just hit your shots. It can be a really good habit to get into. There are other kinds of movements, like raw aim definitely helps with your duel potential, or like building up your raw aim helps with your duel potential, since there will be a lot of opportunities or a lot of moments where you won't actually be in a like positive trade. If you both hit all of your shots, then you will lose or you might not win. So evasive movement can be kind of difficult to aim or play through, or like aim through. So developing your raw aim is going to be like a really good skill to actually climb in ranked as well. But for a lot of heroes like Soldier or Tracer, if you're trying to match the enemy's strafe, it can make your aiming a lot more consistent or easier. So here bans come out onto the board. It's Esperança, and we see Ana, Detta, Roadhog, and Wrecking Ball banned. Very okay bans. I don't mind whatsoever. Especially that Vendetta ban. I mentioned it a few times before. Anytime I'm trying to play anything but Vendetta, it's very nice to not have to actually play into her. So here we're gonna see a Juno, Wu Yang, Emre. I'm curious what my tank will pick here. We could just make this a Soldier video. If my tank goes something that might require like most of my Juno's attention, yeah, probably will. I think that I'll play Soldier. You can play Soldier a little bit like in a similar vein to like a flex DPS style, since you have a lot of that survivability and mobility that heroes like Tracer, Genji could have. It'll be like really nice to be able to take some longer range angles on the map. Now, because we're on Soldier and we know that the rest of our team is going to go this main area, I'm actually going to go inside this right side mega lane so I can develop angles. Looking at my Doomfist, looking like they're taking some sort of aggression. I want to be a little bit sneaky here because I want to make sure that my value is successful. As they come over to mark us a bit, I want to make sure that I am okay and chilling. So as I see the rest of their team push up a bit, I'm going to push myself. Trying to run away the best that I can, and I do end up surviving, getting my health back down. I was tempted to go for the mega, but it would be a little bit risky because it would be very much in like open space and their soldier would be able to shoot me down. But because of our constant pressure on this right side, we're able to eventually win the space. We pull a lot of attention away from our front line and our team, as well as we're able to get some kills on the side, just making sure that we're super slow, we're super chill, knowing that we're getting value on this lane, and if they're finding frags on main, or if they're able to run down our core, it means that space is going to open up for us. So as soon as, since we were just constantly stabling and ready, as soon as they started to look at our front line a little bit too much, we were able to take this flank behind them and blow their team up. We see their Genji going left side. That's something important to note because I want to be forcing out their DPS as much as I can. We see our Lijiang going low and their D.Va is flying at us, so we just want to be chilling. It's definitely okay. Soldier has the numbers to play front to back in moments like these, but if they start pushing to this high ground, I might end up going back this right side. Soldier has some new perks since the last time I actually like studied him. I know how to play like the base kit fairly well, but I actually don't know the nuance or intricacies of the perk choices. So I just picked the attack or the lots of helix rockets on our attack visor one because I know that one's pretty strong. I might actually pop my visor here. We do go up one, so I'm tempted to kind of greet it. I'm kind of glad that I did greet it because now that they pop their beat, they won't have it for us later. Lucio and Kiriko run us down. I thought it was just going to be Lucio. That's why I kind of held my ground. If I knew that both of them were walking at us, I would have run away and tried to live. But I think that I just didn't hear their Kiri walking with their Lucio. I don't know why. I have a really weird habit. I usually have or play with like half of my right headphone off, so it can result in kind of audio issues like that sometimes. Here we see them walking main. As they're popping a bunch of ults, I'm kind of scared to walk anywhere or walk up and get involved in the fight, but as I see their D.Va go down, that's going to be like one of the main people who we were really scared about dealing with us. So I'm just going to, as soon as I see their D.Va get maxed, I'm going to take this right side angle. I'm going to spam out their backline because it's really, really strong. And as soon as they like would turn to look at us, or like if there was a fight that we couldn't win on that angle, I was just going to be ready to back away. But usually into their comp, the only 1v1s that we wouldn't be able to win were going to be that D.Va. So just making sure that they aren't able to get onto us, they aren't able to kind of like blow us up or one-shot us before taking that really strong angle was going to be really important. The reason why I didn't take that angle earlier, even though I said that taking angles is really strong on Soldier because you have the survivability and you're able to walk away, was the distance. Because it was so close and the choke was so narrow, it was very easy for their D.Va to just swing the corner, get onto me, and basically like one-shot me. I wouldn't have had as much like vision to actually see their D.Va and react to them flying on me if I took that corner earlier or before the D.Va got mech'd. So making sure that I'm actually giving myself enough time and putting myself in spots where I'd be able to react to whatever is coming towards me is going to be a really, really important thing about maximizing my survivability on Soldier here. But overall, that was another very quick game, very strong game. So I'm gonna end up playing one more here. I can't find, okay, there it is. Well, I didn't look too heavily at the scoreboard here. We ended 12-1. That one death mistake from not recognizing that we were about to fight a 2v1 and kind of holding our ground into it. Just kind of an awareness mistake. But overall, I think that we were taking pretty good spots on the map. We were pressuring out their team the best that we could, and it sort of reflects in how quickly we were able to win that game and what we were able to do. Of course, actually making sure that you like win the 1v1s or get as much damage on your steps as possible is going to be like really important for DPS. At the end of the day, Overwatch is a micro-based game, so if you like, even if you're on the best spots on the map, if you are taking the like optimal positions, eventually you're gonna have to hit like some of the shots. But there are a ton of little tips and tricks that you can do aside from just raw aim to maximize your consistency at hitting those shots. Going into what's probably going to be our last game for today, we see Ilios, Aatlis, and Paraiso. Ilios and Aatlis are being voted for, looking like it's probably going to be leaning a little bit more towards Ilios. I'm very okay with both. Aatlis is going to be a pretty good map. I'm curious what my team wants to play here. I got to talk about the sort of positioning things I wanted to on Soldier, though this is a pretty good Soldier map as well. Just generally any flashpoints I think are going to be pretty strong for Soldier. Because you have that mobility, it's usually going to be pretty like open with the angles that you can take. I think that Suravasa is actually Soldier's best map in the game, maybe New Queen Street, but one of those two is definitely Soldier's best maps. So I'm gonna see what bans are looking like here and what my team wants to pick, and I might try to lean even a little bit more of like a quirky hero since games are going so well. With the Detta, Diva, and Mercy ban, there's a lot of things that we could be doing here. I might try to play some Symmetra or some Onion. We have a Reinhardt. Ooh. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to be looking at what my backline wants to pick and then sort of deciding what to do from there, but I maybe want to play some Symmetra or some Mei, maybe even some Onion. We have Ana Kiriko. Okay, awesome. Ana Juno. Okay, with the Juno, I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Mei pick. Now that we have the speed boost, if we didn't have the speed boost, I probably would have picked Symmetra, just with the idea that maybe if we needed to, I could attempt to TP my team in to be ready to brawl. Though at the end of the day, it's ranked. You don't have any control over your teammates, but you do have control over yourself. So Symmetra has a lot of solo value as well that I could talk about here. We're going to be looking to just wall off their Reinhardt as soon as they swing this corner. And now I'm going to be taking a flank and looking for my individual value now that we've opened the fight well. As soon as they start looking at me, I want to be backing up. And I'll be the one to force point actually, because I have self sustain and I'm able to live even if they sort of step at me with my cryo freeze. I want to be the one to go contest a point because it puts me in like the least risk compared to my other teammates. I don't know why. I don't know what happened in my brain micro-wise there. We're going to fall pretty low and we're just going to chill and back up. They were able to run down our team a little bit, which is kind of unfortunate. I'm just going to kind of live in their walls. I don't necessarily want to be fighting into them right now. I'm just going to be paying attention, looking at my team through the walls to know when to actually step up. I hear their Cassidy kind of lurking around in my general area, so I want to be careful about that, but I'm going to try to open up some space for our team, even if it's not directly with my wall. I could be taking this angle and seeing if I can find any kills. I'm a threat. They do have to deal with me since Mei does have a lot of that sort of poke value. I'm tempted to wall off my Rhine, but they get nanoed, so I'm actually going to go force point since the enemy team is forced to drop and play into me here. The Moira gets onto my Ana, which is okay. It's not ideal, of course, but it's definitely more than fine to continue winning the game. The Emre gets some good damage onto us, and now there's like two options that we can play. We can stack on our team and play for our walls on the enemy Reinhardt. I actually think I am going to do that since they have Shatter. Even if my Rein doesn't block Shatter, I want to be capable of doing it. I end up blocking the Sun instead. I want to make sure that I'm blocking it or dropping my wall right away to... I'm popping my ult here because I think that this fight's super winnable, and forcing the point with my Blizzard is going to generally be the stronger option. I'm walling off the Reinhardt from getting healing, so my Torbjorn's able to sort of walk them down, making sure that I'm using my stuff as effectively as possible. Can I go up here? Nope, eyeballing. So this point loss is actually like really on me. During that fight where the enemy Alari popped their Sun, and we played to block it, it was actually kind of a bad play for me to stay up there as long as I did, because I didn't find much value through my poke, and it would have been much better for me to just go and match the point for the reasons I was talking about earlier. No one else on my team can really do it safely, so just trying to open up options for my team there would have been really good, and not giving up the point flip like we did. I lost a 1v1. But our Reinhardt's a GOAT. Our Ana's a GOAT. We're down both of our DPS. We're closing in on Nano. If our Reinhardt's able to live and just sort of farm our Nano boost for the next little bit, it could be a really great way to win. Our Ana does go down just before we get our Nano, and our Reinhardt's desperately fighting on the point will also fall, and I think that that will be it for this fight unless we're able to find some miracle frag. I'm just going to poke up a little bit. I'm walling off the Reinhardt. I really don't want the Reinhardt to get onto my Juno or my Torbjorn, so as soon as they're out, I'm just going to be backing up. I'm going to be playing a little bit more towards the front line here, just seeing if I can find any good walls. The Reinhardt goes in, so I'm looking for my wall on him immediately. We do get shattered. I wasn't tracking that the best that I could have, but our Reinhardt gets nanoed and just sort of walks down their team. An amazing play by our Reinhardt and by our Ana. Thankfully making up for our mistake. I'm not finding the value on Mei that I really would like to be. I think first point was going fairly well until we made the mistake of not... It faded into us. Of not touching the point that one time. We hear their Cassie walking up. I'm waiting for my Reinhardt to take most of the aggression. I'm looking for a soft off angle. Reinhardt, I just want to really make sure that we win this. So I put my Blizzard in a path that cuts off not only the Reinhardt's kite path, but as well as their Cassidy's, who's in us. Moira fades inside, and I'm going to be trying to catch out this Emre. I'm not able to hit the shots that I need to though, which is definitely okay. We have our Shatter and our Torbjorn ult coming up very soon here. The Cassidy goes this left side. I'm just going to be walling them off and helping my Reinhardt fight main. We'll be falling pretty low, so I'm just going to keep holding this angle and spamming them out their team as much as I can. Their Cassidy walks onto us, and I'm going to be chilling the best that I can. Their Cassidy continues to walk. Yo. We just want to make our... If we're ever getting like sort of ran down on an angle like that, we just want to make ourselves as unkillable as possible to give our team the best chance of actually like following up on that kill or that fight. Because if we're able to stall for long enough to allow our team to get into that fight, then we're going to be looking to have a really advantaged duel. Moira gets their fade on the point, so I'm just going to wall off this angle and back up, holding this left side the best that I can. I'm actually backing up a little bit more and trying to make it so this Cassidy and Alari can't touch. We find a nice dink onto their Cassidy, but we will go down to the Reinhardt on main. It was a very greedy fight from me. I didn't need to take that duel against the Cassidy. It was definitely disadvantage for us. Something to consider when you're playing projectile heroes is your main advantage is going to just be like straight up jiggle peeking, since hit scans have to see like directly onto you, but projectiles you can kind of chuck projectiles like this while peeking very, very little on an angle. With the Reinhardt, our Reinhardt gets nanoed, and the Reaper tries to run us down. We're gonna fall pretty low, so I'm gonna be popping my cryo to live here. Anytime that you're uncomfortable about actually hitting the right clicks on Mei, it's definitely okay to play for your consistent value, your consistent damage, and just like hold M1 onto the enemy if they're within range. I think the Reinhardt might have Shatter. I'm a little bit nervous about it, so I'm just going to be holding my pinky over my shift key the best that I can. I'm ready to try to block for myself if the enemy team uses their Earth Shatter. But we won't need it for that fight. I'm thinking about how I want to be using my Blizzard. Ideally, I want to see some ult out first before I pop it. Blizzard's going to be similar to Rush, in which is going to be like really, really strong. Like on the point, and to completely like lock down an objective. For now, I'm just going to be holding this angle and poking their backline because I don't see my team going low at all. Even though I'm missing all of the shots, this pressure alone is going to make it really, really difficult for their Kiriko and their Emre to actually get involved in the fight. All the time that their Emre spent shooting at me instead of shooting at my Reinhardt or my backline is going to be amazing value for that fight. Even if I don't necessarily hit like a crazy wall to enable my team, if I'm just able to take out some pretty valuable players on the enemy team, even for a little bit, it's going to be one of the strongest ways I can carry on a self-sustaining hero like Mei. So they get Coalescence on point, use their Fade. So I'm just going to be really playing for that consistent value. Since we hit a nice dink onto them early, I just want to make sure that we're able to clean up that kill the best that we can. We didn't actually have to use our Blizzard there on that point, which is definitely fine. A lot of people, I think, might feel really pressured to use their ultimate, but making sure that you're just getting proper value out of it is going to be one of the most important things of winning ranks. So if you're not able to get value out of your ultimate, it's okay to play for something in the future or to some sort of plan where you can get value out that you need out of it. So like here, I'm going to be thinking about how I want to put my Blizzard on the point. Our Torbjorn goes down and our Reinhardt's coming back from spawn. Their Kiriko wants to walk on us, so we're just going to use our wall to sustain ourselves on the angle. We don't have many cooldowns, so I want to be playing super, super safe here. As they sort of walk down our front line, I'm going to be taking this flank kind of like a Genji or a Tracer would. And maybe finding a kill, but I'm actually going to take myself out of cryo really fast since there was no way for me to get out there. I didn't want to stagger too long. Even going for that kill was probably a little bit too greedy. I could have stacked main and just blizzarded. That would have been a really, really good time for it as they committed onto our Reinhardt. Our Torbjorn goes down early, which really sucks. If they try to overextend here, I probably will blizzard though to try to turn this fight. I've been holding this like angles a little bit too much, I think. So as soon as I see this like Reinhardt use pin or then commit with something like that Kitsune, I'm just going to be popping my blizzard, trying to make it as hard as possible for them to get value out of that rush, and winning this fight through freezing the Reinhardt, who was in a very committal position and it would have been very difficult for them to kite. So the Reinhardt's coming back into this fight. I believe that they're pretty close to shatter again. Kind of walking down our Torbjorn. I'm going to look for a wall on the Reinhardt because I see my Reinhardt stepping. And our Reinhardt pins back, and we're able to take down that Ryan from cutting off the skilling for a little bit, finding some nice icicles onto him. A lot of stuff is happening on the point, and our a lot of our teammates go down, so I'm going to be looking to stack main a lot more and kind of brawl on the point. If I'm able to hit some sort of play there, it would have been amazing, but unfortunately they're going to pop their Emerald and close out this fight. I definitely could have won that if I stacked on my team a little bit earlier. I think that's been my consistent issue in this game. While I can be finding a lot of value on angles, maybe in this game it's more consistent to just sort of stack on main, especially since they have some pretty high damage numbers like that Reaper and the Emre. We're just gonna be pumping damage into my Reinhardt. Maybe it's more valuable to just be trying to get some brawl value out of my wall, cutting off the Reinhardt. The Reaper goes in for Blossom, and their Emre stepped onto me. I'm actually going to pop wall to make sure that I live, since this is a very, very winnable fight. I'm just poking a little bit on this angle. The Emre hits a really nice nade onto me, so I'm going to be kiting to the Mega. They did not know that that was there, so we were able to take that. If they had point flip, I probably would have popped my Blizzard. I thought that they were going to win this fight because I heard Cole behind me. So I popped Blizzard to make sure that we were able to get the kills that went down from the Earth Shatter. But it definitely was not needed there. I misjudged the situation. We're going to be in a pretty rough spot now, actually. Since, like I mentioned in previous videos, holding on to ultimates for when you like really need them, especially in these like dire fights, is going to be pretty good. So I'm just going to stack on main and make sure that I try and deny all that I can from the enemy team. I see the Emre take an angle, so I just look to wall it off, make it as difficult for them to get their value as possible. And as soon as I see this Reinhardt in a pretty bad spot for them, I'm going to take this flank, get onto their Emre, and blow them up. The Reinhardt's going to end up pretty low. Their Kiriko gets pretty low. If I was in voice chat, I would tell my team to stagger their Kiriko a little bit, since we just saw them use teleport. It'd be kind of hard for them to TP out. And I believe that's going to win this game. I'm just balling that to make it kind of harder for them to dodge. And yep, we will be closing out this game. Another sort of game playing a very self-sufficient hero. Ending 35-6, definitely not too bad. I think that was that we definitely had some pretty rough moments there. We lost a few 1v1s. We were taking angles probably when it would have been just higher value to just stack main. But we were able to get enough value to close out that game, which I'm pretty happy about. We stay undefeated on DPS, going up to Masters 3, up 78%, probably getting to GM pretty soon. I believe that our damage is catching up to our tank fairly quickly here. Our support is up to diamond, so we are definitely climbing the ranks pretty quickly. I'm wondering how far we can get before actually dropping a game on DPS and support. Ironically, with tank being the role that I play the most, is the one that I ended up dropping the most games on. I think it's kind of silly, but oh well. Sometimes these things happen. All right, but I think that will be my last game for the day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Overwatch Every Day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.